Greetings, everybody. Membership of the great National Naval Officers Association. This is Captain Rick Wright, your host for another edition of This is NNOA, the affinity group that looks at diversity in the sea services of the United States of America. This is African American History Month, and today is our inaugural program for the month. And today we are going to celebrate naval aviation, or even better, sea services aviation. And also today is a legacy. Yes, a legacy episode of This is NNOA, because we have with us a brilliant superstar brother in naval aviation. Had a chance to meet him a few years ago at the National Naval Officers Association convention in San Diego, California, the Admiral Kid Club, along with his mother. He's a superstar. He's a Charger. Man, we're going to get some great things happening this afternoon as we learn the history and the incredible career of Lieutenant Junior Grade J.L. Gilchrist II. And yes, that name Gilchrist means a lot to the National Naval Officers Association, and we're going to be talking about that too. Hey, Lieutenant J.L. Gilchrist, you're out in Willoughby Island on the great Northwest of the United States of America. How you doing this afternoon, guy?
I'm doing great, and thank you for having me. Yes, like you said, I am over stationed in Willoughby Island, and it's been great so far.
Hey, Lieutenant Gilchrist, give us a little chronology, timeline of your life. Where were you born?
I was born in San Diego, California. Just go into the story?
Yeah, keep kicking. So you're born in San Diego, and what about high school and work towards college? And let you just go with some real touch and go landings this afternoon on this edition of NNOA.
Okay, sounds good. So like I said, I was born in San Diego, California. I went to high school in Marietta, which is still in Southern California. It was called Vista Marietta High School. Afterwards, I went to college up in Northern California called Sacramento State. I majored in biological sciences, had a minor in forensics with a concentration in biomedical sciences. And then I went to OCS in 2017, got my commission there, and went to Pensacola. And that's kind of where it all started for me.
And you got ready to do some flying. Look,
Yes.
Jay, you grew up, you have a great family of naval officers and Navy relatives and all. Did the Navy bug hit you early in your life, or did it come later?
I'd have to say the bug hit me early and it came later as well. Like really my inspiration for flying, I always went to the air shows with my father, always saw the Blue Angels fly. And I think at that point, kind of just like I got bit by the bug there. It's like, I want to fly. And then sometime when I was in college, my last year, I was like, I have a degree and I could go do what I've wanted to do ever since I was a child. So then I went to go pursue that. And now here I am. I'm flying the P-8 out of Whidbey Island.
VP Squadron. Hey, look, the major that you had at that great, what's that, Southern California University College that you attended. Why did you select that major?
So I've always been just interested in biology and the biomedical field. So that's kind of what pursued me or kind of pushed me to pursue that degree. Additionally, I did like a lot of forensics, so that's why I got my minor in forensics as well.
Okay, so forensic sciences, the medical area. Oh God, you got an incredible foundation that's been laid on the town. That is on the table, Lieutenant Gilchrist this afternoon. Now,
Thank you.
OCS for you, was it up at Newport, or what was the officer candidate school that you attended after? Oh, better yet, did you go immediately to OCS after you got your baccalaureate degree?
So I graduated in 2016, and then I was putting in for my OCS package then. And honestly, I was pursuing my private pilot's license. And as I had landed, I got a call from our recruiter saying that I had been selected for the aviation pipeline, and that was just like the best feeling in the world.
Okay, so you were getting your, after coming, were you working on your private pilot's license while you were in undergraduate school or right after undergraduate school?
Right after undergraduate.
Okay, and in the meantime, you got the parallelization of your packet into the Naval Recruiting Command and getting ready to get picked up for OCS. Lieutenant J.L. Gilchrist II. You know a lot about the United States Navy. Tell us about your OCS experience up at Newport, Rhode Island.
So really, I would say that going to OCS, like it was a bit of a shock, like reporting there initially. But honestly, if you put the work in, if you ask for help when you need it, people are there to help you. They want you to pass, and you want to pass as well. So it's different, but don't be scared at the same time. Just give it your all, and you'll be fine.
Now, when you went through OCS, did you go through during the winter time or the summertime?
I had gotten there towards the end of winter. I got there in April, so there was still some snow there, but when I commissioned, it was pretty much just perfect weather.
Now, you're a Southern California guy. You never seen snow before, right?
I've seen snow a couple times, but it was a bit different out there.
No different. Okay. Now, look, while you were in OCS, was the aviation community already on the table for you? Did you have to go through more paperwork, more packets to put in, and more chance to prove yourself before you got selected? Or was it getting those ensign bars or those shoulder bullets of yours with that nice gold stripe? Were you ready to go right straight to flight school?
So in applying to OCS, you already know what your designation is going to be when you put in for your application. So I went to OCS knowing that I had a pilot slot, and then afterwards, after I finished up OCS, I was going down to Pensacola to report for API.
Okay, so we head straight to Pensacola. Tell us this afternoon, and especially for a lot of people who know about the training program to become a naval aviator, you head down to Naval Air Station, Pensacola, Florida, the home of naval aviation training. And what happens when you arrive through the gates of Pensacola, across the bridge over that nice, beautiful river, right into Naval Air Station, Pensacola? You check in. What happens?
So from my experience, when I checked into Pensacola, and then there was a bit of a backlog into actually starting API and IFS. IFS being the introductory flight screening. So you'd get into the pool, wait for a couple months before you would have to get your class day for IFS. At which point they would test you. They'd give you several different tests, written test, and then at the completion of the academic portion, you go into the flying portion, in which you go to one of the airfields like around Pensacola to actually get some stick time, flying flying a Cessna, flying a Piper, and stuff like that. And then that would culminate into you doing your own solo, just doing touch and goes at the school that you were flying at. At which point you would do your solo, and then you'd be done with IFS, and then you'd wait to class for API. And then with API, it was a lot of academics, just learning the basics of flying, and they had survival swim as well. So the days were long, but they were honestly really rewarding at the same time, just knowing that you're working towards fulfilling your dream of being that naval aviator, getting those golden wings. And honestly, I'd have to say like API it was great. Just that camaraderie with your class, just going through everything together, passing all your tests, going through that swim, and then flight suit Friday, getting your flight suit, and just sharing the moment with everyone was just great.
So you guys, did you hang out over at Mustang Officers Club on the? Is that evolution still happening at Naval Air Station Pensacola? I know I used to go down at CNET right across the street at NAS Pensacola doing stuff with the Naval Education Training Command, and I would walk across one Friday afternoon. I walked over to Mustang Officers Club, and man, the place was rocking. Is that still happening for you young naval aviators in training, Lieutenant J.L. Gilchrist II?
Yeah, so when we did our flight suit Fridays, it would be at the O Club, and it was just a giant, just like celebration. Like you'd have previous classes, future classes just coming to like congratulate you, like for getting your flight suit, and it was just great. Just talking to the instructors, talking to different aviators that were there, and FOs. It was just a good time.
Good time. Now, your basic aviation syllabus at this time, what kind of courses are you taking? You mentioned that early, but what are the areas of academic input you got to get really familiar with? The kind of classes that you take, like meteorology, and what are some of the other classes going on that you can share with us this afternoon on this edition of This is NNOA? Lieutenant J.L. Gilchrist II.
So for the different type of classes, you had aero, weather, navigation, engines, flight rules and regulations, and all of that was just condensed into just a few week timeline, and about every week or so you'd have a test on one of the subjects. But like I said earlier, like how it was OCS, if you reach out for the help, if you show that you care, the instructors will be there to help you. So just don't be scared and you'll be fine. Just show that you care. That's the big thing.
Now, when did the T-34 evolution come in this syllabus in your training pipeline? Are they still flying the T-34s to you guys, the Charlie models, or I'm an old naval officer, man, and bring me up to date on what's that plane of training y'all using there at Naval Air Station Pensacola?
So when I finished up at Pensacola, I went down to Corpus Christi at a training for, and at that time they're flying the T6.
Oh, the T6s, yes, okay. How do
So
you like flying that plane?
on the T6, it was a lot of fun, honestly. Just I still remember my first flight in the T6. It was just, well, I mean, it was an early morning Corpus Christi day, and the mosquitoes were everywhere. But um, as I took off, it was just a great feeling. Starting up the engine for the first time, it was just fantastic, and I still remember it, and it was great.
Look, Lieutenant Gilchrist, having your private pilot's license already when you get ready to go through the Naval Aviation pipeline syllabus training, was that of great assistance to you already being on board? I'm sure there were other aviator members of your class who didn't have private pilot license. Did it help get you going even better, quicker?
So I didn't have mine, but I would say that if you're a validator, that if you do have that pilot's license, then you don't have to go through IFS and you start with the academic portion of API pretty much right off the get-go. Like there's not as much downtime and you get started faster.
Faster. Gotcha. Roger that. Now, how long did you stay out of Corpus Christi, Texas? Is that primary flight training we call it there?
Yes, yes. So they have both primary and advanced down in Corpus Christi. So I got to Corpus Christi in 2018 and I left in 2019.
Okay. In fact, I enjoyed getting those nice emails from you. You kept me abreast of your training. I shot you back some. I'm just so proud of you from that standpoint. Now, in primary training, on your flying exercise, you guys flying all over the country to different airfields and your training, is that part of the training there? I mean, you're leaving like Naval Air Station Corpus Christi, you guys fly back to Pensacola, you go up to Norfolk, or what might happen in the training evolution of getting all that flying training time in?
So for that, it's broken up into different phases. You have your contacts phase, which is like the fundamentals of flying. You learn how to do stalls. You learn how to do slow flight. You learn the characteristics of the aircraft, and then you go into the instrument phase, which is just instrument flying, doing different approaches, be it VOR, ILS, localizer, GPS approaches. But to answer your question, it was primarily just in the area of Corpus Christi that they have designated areas in which you could fly. But there is a phase during instrument called the cross country in which you would actually go to different states and
Yes.
just practice.
Oh, find a field somewhere and do your touch and goes or let down and goes at some field out getting a lot of good training in. Now,
Yes, yes.
Lieutenant Gilchrist, the United States Navy aviation community, basically we have three basic communities. Got the helo community, got the jet community, and then we got fixed wing community, rotor ring, that rotor, not helicopters is rotary, Rick. Had an old Navy captain here on this edition of NNOA. Well, of course, you got jets, you got the patrol aircraft, you got the helos. How's that decision made for you? Is that your decision or the Navy's decision?
So it's a bit of both. It goes into what you want, the needs of the Navy, and how well you do during flight school. So the big thing is needs of the Navy. Then they would primarily decide what do they need at that time, and then how they would allocate you based off of how you did in flight school. So if you're at top of your class, then they'll take more weight into where you want to go. So say that if you're top of your class and you want to go jets, then you'll most likely get jets, and that's kind of how that works.
Yeah, did you, but you said it, you like the community you're in, huh?
Oh yes, yes, I do.
Oh, this is perfect. Now, you got your wings at Pensacola. That's when you pick up the wings, those golden Navy wings of gold.
So I got my wings at the end of the advanced syllabus in Corpus Christi when I finished up advanced.
Okay, so you got your Navy wings of gold. You're an aviator. The training looks great. All right, now what's going to happen? Is the you got the community, the naval aviation community that you're going into, and then you're going to go to what they call the oldest here, RAG Squadron. And what is that in the pipeline timeline as we get our interview going this afternoon? Are you headed over to NAS Jacksonville there?
So actually, I just finished up at Jacksonville last year doing that FRS. So at the completion of your advanced training, you would report to your FRS, which is the Fleet Replacement Squadron, and that's where you do the primary training in the aircraft that you've been assigned to. So in Jacksonville, it's the P3 and the P8. So that's where I learned to fly the P8.
Okay, and basically we were transitioning from the P3 Orions over to the P8s, right? Is that the P8s are basically training that is replacing the P3 Orions? Roger that.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, look, NAS Jackson's got a new runway. They rebuilt the runway down there. I was just reading the other day. Was that happening in your evolution? They moved a lot of people over to Cecil Field while they were rebuilding the main runway at Naval Air Station Jacksonville. Were you in that evolution?
I was not, no.
Okay, now I was just reading the other day, they just opened up that they rebuilt the main runway at Jacksonville, NAS Jax. I think I did. Well, I should have anyhow. Okay. Now, when you're going through a fleet replacement squadron, that is, you're basically training with the aircraft that you're going to be sent out to a squadron with. What's a typical day like?
So it's kind of the similar structure to how it was for both primary and advanced. You report to the FRS, you do your check-in, and then at the start of your training, you start doing simulators to get that initial feel for the aircraft that you're flying in my case, the P8. So you do some sims, and then after a certain amount of sims, you'll actually begin to fly the plane.
Yes. But the simulators are used really widely before you physically get in the plane itself, right?
Yes, they are.
Get a lot of simulator training. I know I was down at Naval Air Station Jacksonville a number of years ago. Took a bunch of educators down and had a nice log cabin. They had as an '06 right by the St. Johns River, man. It was beautiful, right on the other side of the golf course. Nice location, Naval Air Station Jacksonville and the St. Johns River. Simulator training. Now, Lieutenant Jai Gilchrist II, you're at the Fleet Replacement Squadron, and you're there for a whole year, right?
It could depend. Your timeline depends. Pretty much.
Until they need it, of course, and the squadron needs, and the various air stations around. Look, a typical. Did you take some long trips in that P8 Poseidon, like from Naval Air Station Jacksonville, probably to Bermuda somewhere, or were you a lot of your training flights down to Key West are short or long distance?
It depends on the flight as well. I mean, you are going to visit different states just because of the type of flights that you do. So
Yes.
flights can either be short or long, and it kind of falls onto you, like how you want to plan that flight. Being like, okay, I want to go to this state, do some touch and goes there, do some practice approaches there, or I want to kind of remain more local and just do like the majority of my flight on my touches here.
Hey, do you ever take a run down to Naval Air Station Key West, Florida?
I haven't been down there, not yet, but
No touch and goes at Key West. You
nothing yet.
ever hit fields like Norfolk, NAS Norfolk, or as a bounce field in your training?
No, I haven't been to Norfolk either.
Okay, haven't hit those fields. You know, as a young kid growing up in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, for me, I grew up in naval and Coast Guard aviation. And in my hometown, the United States Coast Guard Air Station, Elizabeth City, was sitting there. And basically all those fleet replacement squadrons, especially like Victor Alpha Whiskey 120 at Naval Air Station Norfolk, they would find the S2F trackers. And as a young kid growing up, I had one of my best buddies I got to connect you with is Billy Bowser. In fact, Billy and our families are direct descendants of the Pea Island lifeboat stations, the first all African-American lifeboat station, the United States Coast Guard. And Billy and I grew up together in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. And boy, we used to spend our days, many days, going out to the U.S. Coast Guard Air Station, Elizabeth City, watching all the planes coming in, doing touch and goes, let down and goes. But all the naval aircraft, especially out of Victor Alpha Whiskey 120, NAS Norfolk would come down doing touch and goes. And that was really fascinating to see those evolution of flights. And of course, my buddy Billy Bowser, he left when we were in high school. His mother and father took teaching positions up in New Jersey, and he went to University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana, as an aeronautical engineering major. And many years ago, Lieutenant J.L. Gilchrist, I got a phone call from Billy, and he said he was flying home for Christmas, and he flew down to Elizabeth City, North Carolina in a Cessna 140, the tail dragger type. And man, we had a ball. And he came down on a Christmas day. We flew out of Elizabeth City, the municipal airport there. We went on the first flight, by the way, at Kill Devil Hills, where the Wright brothers flew the first airplane. Then we jumped out over the ocean side down the Outer Banks of North Carolina and went into Billy Mitchell Field at Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. That was an incredible day. My first day as a young college student, man, at Elizabeth City State University. My dear friend, Billy Bowser, aeronautical engineer. In fact, he also was at Pax River working for the Navy test pilot stuff many years ago. But let's get back to you, Lieutenant J.L. Gilchrist. We celebrate African American History Month and all. Now, tell this great radio audience checking us out all over the world this afternoon about the P-8 Poseidon, what kind of aircraft it is, what's basically the function of what's those maritime patrols and stuff that you can tell us about this afternoon, and how does it feel flying that incredible jet-powered airplane?
So the P-8, it's a great plane. Like you said, it's the primary maritime aircraft of the Navy, and it's a lot of fun to fly. Sorry.
No, it's got all the good feelings to it. I mean, no, this is absolutely incredible. Of course, the replace for that, you guys replaced the P-3 Orions. And of course, I went down to Naval Air Station Jacksonville many years ago on a trip, had orientation orders. In fact, my role as a naval liaison officer, pretty assigned to Crew Com, the Navy was always sending me out into the fleet to get the modernization and orientation to what was happening, so I could help recruit naval officers for the OCS programs and ROTC and for the Naval Academy. And I went down to Naval Air Station Jacksonville many years ago, and I hung out with a VP squadron for close to about 10 days and went on a bunch of flights. In fact, one flight we took out of NAS, went through the actual NAV brief that day, and they said, okay, I was a lieutenant commander at the time, just got basically select for commander. And so, Commander, we got to carry an orientation flight, P-3, a whole crew about 12 on that P-3 Charlie update model. And we left NAS Jackson, flew out to Bermuda, man. And we did some operation looking for subs in the Atlantic, and then came back to NAS Jacksonville. Part of my aviation history and loving it there. Lieutenant J.L. Gilchrist II. Now, Jay, you finished the Fleet Replacement Squadron at Naval Air Station Jacksonville, and now you're located where in the Navy?
So I'm now located in Whidbey Island. I'm with VP 47.
VP 47. Hey, what's the motto name for VP 47?
They're called the Golden Swordsman.
Golden Swordsman. Now, there are a number of other VP squadrons at Naval Air Station Willoughby Island. That's a big airfield you got. Hey, give our audience this afternoon, all of our incredible listeners here on This is NNOA with Captain Rick Wright and our guest today, Lieutenant J.L. Gilchrist II. And this is a Legacy Saturday, and we're going to be talking about what we call a Legacy episode coming up shortly. But tell us about Naval Air Station Willoughby Island. This is basically a major master naval air station, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is one of the other air stations, similar to how NAS Jax is as well. And it's one of the air stations at which the P-8 is located, in addition to Jax as well. Okay,
and you guys are working the whole Pacific. Is pretty much your environmental flying atmospheric arena, isn't it?
I would have to get back to you on that one.
Okay. Okay, what you can tell me again. But anyhow, how you enjoying Seattle, man, up in Willoughby Island, that area though of the United States?
I mean, I haven't been down to Seattle yet. It's actually on my list of things to do. Just once COVID is kind of blows over, then they start to open up the state back again. It is on my list of things to go experience.
Well,
But
also, COVID has really put a whole nother perspective on everything. Boy, I tell you, the year 2020 is a tough one. We got a new year in 2021, but I think we'll keep optimism going and make things happen. Hey, look, Lieutenant Gilchrist, if you get down to Seattle area and you kind of get around the University of Washington, that big state university down there, and you're kind of hanging around on the campus, look for the basketball coach at the University of Washington. You might even run into him. His name is Coach Mike Hopkins. He's one of my students here, and he coached many years in basketball here at Syracuse University, the home of the Orange. So as a good friend you can meet up there, he would love to meet you, man. Mike Hopkins at the University of Washington. Look, now, Jay, you are you grew up in the Navy, man. Your mother and your father, and you have a distinguished grandfather. In fact, your whole family is just absolutely incredible. And we are celebrating African-American history on this episode. In fact, all of our episodes of the month. But every NNOA, this is NNOA podcast, want to get into our history and our legacy. Do you have many memories of your grandfather, Jay?
I do. I have several memories of my grandfather. I spent a lot of time with him, and he was a great person to be around, and he still is a great person.
I in fact, I came aboard NNOA in 1982. And of course, Judge Fauntleroy was the president of the National Naval Officers Association, our big convention that we'd held that time in Norfolk, Virginia. And I was on the board of directors and served as the public affairs officer for the National Naval Officers Association. And of course, our next convention, in fact, it was at the 1982 convention that your grandfather was named the new president of the National Naval Officers Association. And I was new aboard as public affairs officer. And my big charge was to develop a newsletter for the National Naval Officers Association. And I used to publish it, write it, and put it together up here in Syracuse, New York, where we are broadcasting from this afternoon. And then after I put the newsletter together, I used to get some of my students to haul the boxes down to the bus station. And guess where I sent the newsletters to? Lieutenant J.L. Gilchrist II. I sent them to Florida A&M State University and the Navy NROTC program. This is back in the 1980s. And you know who was a commanding officer, right?
I think I have an idea.
Your grandfather. How you like that? Look,
Okay.
I'd like to share with the audience this afternoon, we have the grandson of Captain J. Leon Gilchrist, who was president of the National Naval Officers Association. And Jay, your grandfather sent me this note. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll just kind of scan it real quick for you. It's called The President's Corner, that appeared on page 4 of the NNOA newsletter. And these are your grandfather's exact words. Since it is after the midway point of my first year as president, I want to report on the status regarding my recruiting goals. First, let's talk about officer recruiting. As you recall, assisting the Naval Recruiting Command and officer recruiting was a highly prioritized agenda item. I am happy to state that officers' recruiting efforts have increased significantly in almost all NNOA chapters. The Norfolk chapter, for example, boasts recruiting 7 ROTC scholarship students who will be headed to Prairie View A&M as a result of that chapter's initiatives. Also at Florida A&M and Florida State, a campus recruiting blitz arranged with the Jacksonville Naval Recruiting District during January resulted in 6 minority candidates who are now slated for officer programs. Others are doing similar projects to boost the total minority officer strength. These are the only examples of what can be done if we pitch in. Let me encourage all chapters to continue involvement in their recruiting actions. And of course, it goes on, but let me go to the last section. And in this last paragraph, there's much more to this, but don't want to bore everybody this afternoon on this edition of This is NNOA with Captain Rick Wright, as we talk and interview Lieutenant Junior Grade J.L. Gilchrist II and we're reading a little bit of what his grandfather had sent out to the National Naval Officers Association throughout the newsletter that I published at that time. And he ended up by saying, finally, let me commit on the July 1983 conference in San Diego. We are planning a large and very productive conference. We plan to emphasize professional development. The CNO has consented to be our keynote speaker. Let me invite you to attend and make this one of the biggest and best conferences ever. Further details of the conference are presented elsewhere in this newsletter. J. Leon Gilchrist, Captain, United States Navy. And that was on page 4, and there's a picture of your grandfather. I'll put it in front of the camera here for our great producer, director, Reuben Wright III, who is producing our show this afternoon. What do you think about that, Leon? That's your grandfather, man, his actual words.
Okay, no, that's
not bad, huh?
That's not bad at all.
It was something else that your grandfather did also while he was at, as commanding officer of the Naval Recruiting, that is Naval NROTC program at Florida A&M University, the Rattlers, was he put together naval officers meet in Tallahassee. And in this, in fact, I have a photograph also in the edition of the NNOA newsletter, but in this photograph, the late Admiral Samuel L. Gravely, the first African-American admiral in the United States Navy, was in your grandfather invited him along with the governor, Bob Graham. And of course, there was Captain Don Griffin, who was Assistant Secretary of the Florida Commerce Department, Captain Ray Lambert, Florida State Inspector General, and both Williams and Griffin were past presidents of NNOA, but these were all African Americans. So it's a really classic photograph, and your grandfather's standing right next to the governor at that time of Florida, Governor Bob Graham. And I put it up on the screen here. And of course, for those who might be seeing the video version of this also. Well, Lieutenant J. L. Gilchrist II, man, you got some Navy history. How's your mama doing, man?
She's doing great. She's doing great. She's enjoying the retired life right now, but she's still staying busy.
Yes, we'll have to make sure she tunes in, and when we get this posted, to check out this podcast with you there. Also, right. In fact, on another page of the newsletter, on page 11, is another photograph of your grandfather in Orlando, Florida. NNOA members are seen at the first annual NNOA banquet in October of last year at the Officers Club of the Naval Training Center at Orlando at that time. And of course, there's a picture of your grandfather standing with a lot of other great naval officers. And also, my God, wow, Laura Stubbs, who at this time was standing right next to your grandfather. And I'm just trying to shoot that picture up front of the camera here. And this was in Orlando, Florida, and he was the banquet speaker. So, Jay, what does it feel like to be a legacy son of the National Naval Officers Association with so much history in your DNA?
It feels great. It feels great. NOA is a great program. Really, it's good to know that you have that network behind you, that people are there to help you out. If you have a question, if you need help with something, that there's someone there that can help you out. And it's great to see that even after all these years, that the NNOA is still going strong.
And of course, by the way, Lynn Walton told me to tell you hi, man.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, Lynn also, and all the guys, and Ernie, who's head of the veterans rep for the National Naval Officers Association, all the other naval aviators, all keep in contact with me. And also, Jay, it's really a pleasure, man, for you sent me all those nice emails giving me of your progress as you were going through the naval aviation pipeline. Man, it was nice getting that from you. And I had really been looking forward to having you on, of course, our This is NNOA podcast episode. Hey, now, Jay, as we talk about African-American history from an aviation point of view in our sea services, what a spotlight this afternoon, Ensign Jesse Brown, United States Navy, our first African-American naval aviator who went through the pipeline to get his wings. Hey, in your training, when did you first hear of Jesse Brown, Lieutenant Gilchrist?
When did I first hear of Jesse Brown?
Or did you ever hear of Jesse Brown? It's what I'm getting at. Maybe I should raise the question that way.
I want to say that I was actually speaking to you when I first heard of him.
Okay, and I'm just running a little shot. This is African American history, and of course, Ensign Jesse Brown, and of course, he got shot down. He was 24 years of age in a F-4AU Corsair, Chosin Reservoir during the Korean War. Horror story, but our first African American naval aviator to go through the pipeline and get his wings. In fact, Lieutenant Jesse Brown. Jesse finished the Ohio State University. And after he finished Ohio State, he got his wings. I think I'm talking roughly like 1946. And of course, got winged, I think in 1946, 47. And then, of course, we had the outbreak in the Korean conflict and where he got shot down. Real horror story, but Jesse Brown. Let me throw another name out at you this afternoon. Lieutenant J.L. Gilchrist, the second. Legacy as we celebrate African American History Month. What about Lieutenant General Frank Peterson, United States Marine Corps?
Lieutenant General Frank Peterson. Now, that is a name I am not familiar with.
Okay. Well, hey, I'm not really expecting you, to be familiar. That's why we got our podcast and being African American History Month. But also, let's spotlight also this afternoon Lieutenant J.L. Gilchrist II, Lieutenant General Frank Peterson, first African-American aviator and first African-American general in the United States Marine Corps. So the Moffett Pointers are smiling in heaven. And Lieutenant General Frank Peterson, I had a chance to talk to him a number of years. He's gone to aviation heaven also at this time in the year 2021, Lieutenant Gilchrist. But Lieutenant General Frank Peterson said, told me years ago, Captain Wright, if you ever talk about naval aviation, don't forget to mention me. And also to say to all the young new pilots or whatever generation you'll be talking to tell them that when he got his wings with the United States Marine Corps, they did everything they could do. The same flight program training prospectus of many years ago that you went through at Naval Air Station Pensacola. So they did everything they could possibly do to wash him out. But he was brilliant like you and got his wings. And then, of course, he told me that when he got his wings, he, as really the only African-American aviator in the Marine Corps, they didn't know what to do with him. And so they sent him out to California, El Toro, California. And then when he showed up at the main gate, man, they pulled guns on him because they thought he was impersonating a Marine Corps officer and an aviator. But let's not forget Lieutenant General Frank Peterson this afternoon. Okay, Lieutenant J.L. Gilchrist celebrating African-American history with another edition of This is NNOA with Captain Rick Wright. Let me throw another name at you. Captain Bobby Wilkes, United States Coast Guard.
Captain Bobby Wilkes. That's another name.
Another name. Okay, this is working nice.
This is great, yeah.
This is working nice, Lieutenant J.L. Gilchrist. No, this is working real nice. Captain Bobby Wilkes, United States Coast Guard, was the first African-American Coast Guard aviator. Also went through Naval Air Station Pensacola to get his wings. And Captain Bobby Wilkes also became the first African-American captain in the United States Coast Guard, and of course, Coast Guard aviator. And back in the 1980s, had a chance to, he was also at one time the Eastern VP of the National Naval Officers Association. But let's not forget Captain Bobby Wilkes this afternoon. Hey, Captain, Lieutenant Gilchrist, I just thought of something, man. I remember a story that was told me, man, about who really was the first African-American naval aviator in the Navy. And I'll make it real short. You want to hear the story? Along with the audience this afternoon?
Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
I spent my summers every summer as the embarked public affairs officer for the United States Navy's Great Lakes Cruise. And what we did every summer, we brought up either LSTs out of Norfolk or either FFGs, guided missile frigates, out of Charleston, South Carolina, or Mayport, Florida. And we brought up also some early destroyers, those Forrest Sherman class destroyers that all their razor blades, like the USS Edson and all, the cruise of Great Lakes. And one summer I cruised into Erie, among the many ports on the American Great Lakes, Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, Lake Huron, Lake Michigan, Lake Superior. We cruised all these different cities, but one of our cities was Erie, Pennsylvania. And I cruised into Erie, and also being an African-American officer, man, our ship tied up. And one day, a beautiful, lovely African-American gentleman came up to me, well-dressed, and he looked at me, Lieutenant Gilchrist, and you know what he said to me? He said, hi, Commander. And the first thing he said to me, do you know who the first African-American naval aviator was in the United States Navy? And I said, yeah, Jesse Brown. He said, no, sir, I got you, haven't I? I said, well, sir, tell me the story. And he said that a dear friend of his name is Lieutenant Oscar Holmes, who was a graduate of West Virginia State University and the Ohio State University. He was an African-American brother, but very fair-skinned, if you're getting the message that I'm going with this afternoon. And he went to Erie, Pennsylvania, trying to get a job working with the Erie County Lighting Department, you know, handling all the electrification of the area. And while there, this is just before World War II broke out, you ever heard of the Civilian Pilot Training Program, CPTP, program developed by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt? We hadn't gotten into World War II yet, but he saw the need for pilots, you know, coming along. And so they created this program called Civilian Training Program, you know, for people to get their wings, their pilot license and all. So Mr. Oscar Holmes, eventually Lieutenant Oscar Holmes, United States Naval Aviator, who was a brother now, very fair-skinned brother, applied and got his wings in Erie, Pennsylvania. Then while he was there, World War II breaks out, and then the Navy had a need for aviators, man, I mean, big time. And he saw this advertisement in the newspaper. The United States Navy was looking for people who were pilots already. So he applied to the program, man. And he got his wings and got commissioned in the United States Navy in 1943. And they did not know that he was an African-American brother. He just kept it quiet, man. And they didn't find it out till after the war was over. How you like that story this afternoon?
That's a great. That's actually really cool to hear.
Yeah, check it out. You can Google it up. Lieutenant Oscar W. Holmes, United States Navy Naval Aviator. And technically, no, he didn't go through Navy pilot training like you did at Naval Air Station, Pensacola, Florida. But he ended up basically, because he already had his pilot's license, you know, and could fly, that he basically applied for the Navy's, I think, what they call the NAVCAP program as a naval aviation cadet. And you go through the basic Navy training, then right out into the fleet. But he spent most of his time during World War II he was training other pilots. And also he was one of the guys with ferry pilot, you know, ferrying aircraft from the aircraft factories to different naval air stations all over the United States. But you can check it out to our audience this afternoon on this edition of NNOA with Captain Rick Wright, United States Navy historian for the National Naval Officers Association. And our guest this afternoon is Lieutenant J.L. Gilchrist II, legacy, whose grandfather, Captain Leon Gilchrist, was president of the National Naval Officers Association. Hey, Lieutenant Gilchrist, before I let you go, man, you got some shout outs this afternoon you want to give to the family and members of the NNOA family this afternoon?
To the NNOA, keep doing what you're doing. This is a great program that just needs to keep on continuing. It's a network, and that it's there to help people, and that's just great to see. So just keep it up. And then to my mom, just my biggest supporter, just thank you for always being there for me, and just thank you for so much.
Well, Lieutenant J.L. Gilchrist II, remember seeing you in your choker whites, man, and a big gala banquet we had at the Admiral Kidd Club out in San Diego, California, summer of 2018. And boy, you are really on point. Really, you're Bravo Zulu all over the board. And also your many messages you sent to me to give me a progress report of you going through naval flight training, and you got those Navy wings of gold on your shoulders. Lieutenant Gilchrist, and in fact, you go right up to lieutenant here very shortly. Tell us, how many other African-American aviators do we have out at Naval Air Station Willoughby Allen at this time in the year 2021 as you do your service out there?
Speaking from what I've seen, I believe that Maddie Swiegel, I believe her name is, that she is here at Whitby. I haven't run into her personally, but I do believe that she's out here. And then there's not a great amount of African American aviators out here.
But our numbers are still small, is what I'm getting at. And before Jay, one other thing, as we talk to our young junior officers who might want to transition to aviation or either going through the pipeline there, or even better still, I'm sure we probably got some wonderful young people who are high school seniors or in high school or even in college or probably in various, NROTC programs right now. What is your message to them this afternoon if they're looking at aviation? Words of encouragement.
Keep grinding. Just keep grinding, keep working towards it, and you have to keep on moving forward. Things will be tough, but you have to keep moving forward and just keep the work up, and it'll be rewarding at the end.
Well, Lieutenant J.L. Gilchrist II. Jay, pleasure, man, talking with you and having you as my guest this afternoon on this incredible first edition of This is NNOA for African American History Month here in the month of February in the year 2021. In fact, next week, our guest will be Vice Admiral Manson Brown, United States Coast Guard, is our guest next week. And he has an incredible career that he amassed in the United States Coast Guard. Since I'm thinking about the Coast Guard again, I also like to lay out a big shout out to Lieutenant Janine McIntosh, United States Coast Guard, who was the first female, African-American female aviator in the United States Coast Guard. And also another great Coast Guard aviator who was a big NNOA, Commander Marcus Kennedy, United States Coast Guard. I think Marcus is a commanding officer, Coast Guard Air Station down in Texas there. And he was also did his graduate work here at Syracuse University many years ago. And also Lieutenant Commander LaShonda Holmes, United States Coast Guard helo pilot. Just some of the many NNOAers who are out in the fleet doing it up big time. Well, Lieutenant J.L. Gilchrist, I know I've taken too much of your time this afternoon, the second. You got to get back out on the flight line and take one of those P-8s out over the Pacific. And I want to say bravo Zulu to you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Okay. Well, this edition of This is NNOA featuring Lieutenant J.L. Gilchrist II, Naval Aviator, stationed at Naval Air Station Willoughby Island, out in the big state of Washington. And today's edition, as usual, has been produced and directed by Roosevelt Reuben Wright III. Tally ho, Lieutenant Gilchrist. I'll stay in contact. And bravo Zulu to you again. Go Navy and go Naval Aviation. And we'll talk to you soon, all right?
All right, talk to you soon.